They don't scream anymore at Yankee Stadium, do they?
Nobody has to scream. They have replay now.
Anyway, we're going to have Bill Madden on right after this. You're listening to From the Press Box. I'm Rob Leonard with my host, Tim Leonard. Bill Madden, author of 1954, will be with us in a few minutes.
Hi, this is Michael Anthony. Join me every Saturday from 7 to 10 p.m. for the best of traditional jazz and American popular standards. The vocalists, musicians, arrangers, and composers are always celebrated each week with artist profiles and special guests. It's a celebrated musical art form that is alive and well. So tune in every Saturday from 7 to 10 p.m. for The Unforgettables on WHPC 90.3 FM, the voice of Nassau Community College, the station that gives you music, memories, and so much more.
Break out the mood rings and slip on the platform shoes. It's the Super 70s, the decade that brought us Elton John, Donnie Marie, and Fonzie are back on WHPC. Join me, Ron Stevens, as we count down the top 20 hits of a featured week and hear lots of bonus hits from that memorable decade. So listen to the Super 70s on 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College.
The Super 70s, Tuesday at 12 a.m. and Saturday at 7 a.m. on 90.3 WHPC.
Dogs, cats, puppies, and kittens make wonderful additions to any family. If you are thinking of adding a new dog, cat, puppy, or kitten to your family, please consider adopting a shelter animal first. Little Shelter, a no-kill shelter in Huntington, New York, has hundreds of dogs, cats, puppies, and kittens anxiously waiting for someone special to take them home. All adoptions include spaying, neutering, testing, and shots. Please visit or call Little Shelter Animal Rescue and Adoption Center, 33 Warner Road, Huntington, New York. Their phone number is 631-368-8770, extension 205, or visit them on the web at www.littleshelter.com. Once again, the phone number 631-368-8770, extension 205, or www.littleshelter.com. Adopt a shelter animal and help save a precious life.
Looking for a way to spend your Saturday mornings? Well, look no further on the Rare Groove Session as I, DJ Solero, spins the absolute funkiest tunes ever recorded from the 60s and 70s, spanning all genres of music. So tune into the Rare Groove Session Saturday mornings at midnight only on 90.3 FM WHPC, Garden City, New York, where we are the radio voice of Nassau Community College.
Do you love Italy or would like to visit this beautiful country? You do not have to travel far. Just join me, Rita, every Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. to Profumi d'Italia on 90.3 WHPC and repeat on Tuesdays from 2 to 4 a.m. I will take you on a virtual trip to the Eternal City, on a gondola ride, the Tuscan vineyards, and the warm southern shores. Together, we will visit the most famous museums, opera houses, local markets, and top restaurants. Every Thursday at 5 p.m., immerse yourself in history, music, and the culture of Italy. Right here on 90.3 FM WHPC.
Welcome back to From the Press Box. My name is Rob Leonard. Joining me is my co-host Tim Leonard, and on the phone with us is author and writer also for the New York Daily News, we should say, Bill Madden. He is the author of the latest book called 1954, the year Willie Mays and the first generation of black superstars changed Major League Baseball forever. Bill, welcome to From the Press Box. How you doing?
Good.
Thank you for joining us. My first question, anytime I have an author on, is why did you decide to write this book, and why did you decide to write it now?
Well, actually, it's a good question. This is a book that's actually been in my head probably for about 10 years at least, and it had its origin going all the way back to about 10 years ago when I was very good friends with Larry Doby. And Larry had talked to me about doing his autobiography with me, and it would have been a great, I think, a necessary book. As you know, Larry was a pioneer of baseball, just the way Jackie Robinson was, in that he was the first black American League player, and wound up going to the Hall of Fame. We just never got around to doing the book. Things happened. I got involved in a Steinbrenner book, and then Larry passed away. But I have all the notes and stuff from the interviews that I did with him leading up to that. And so, in addition to that, I've always felt that 1954 was a season that was really neglected as far as the historians are concerned. It kind of got overlooked through the years because it was the year the Yankees didn't win the pennant after winning 5 straight world championships.
Right.
But so many things happened that season that were so significant in the history of baseball that I felt like this was the time to do this book and bring them all to the forefront.
That's true. And also Brown versus the Board of Education outside of baseball was, done by the Supreme Court. So that also set things off, which is a good thing.
Well, that was the thing. It was a momentous year all the way around in America. And the New York Giants team that won the World Championship that year was such a unique team that, again, they kind of got overlooked in the history of baseball as far as what they did and in the context of when they did it. And by that I mean when Brown versus Board of Education came down in May of 1954, it set the whole country off in racial turmoil. There were riots in the South. There were protests in the North. Everybody up in arms over the forced integration of schools. And it took a long time for Brown versus Board of Education to really have its desired effect in America. In the meantime, though, we had this racial strife in this country, and then you had this Giants team, which the composition of this Giants team was Willie Mays, Hank Thompson, and Monty Irvin, 3 key players, all black players, and 5 Southern white players, Alvin Dark, Whitey Lockman, Don Mueller, Davey Williams, and Dusty Rhodes. And to throw into the mix the first Puerto Rican pitcher to ever pitch a World Series game, Ruben Gomez.
Wow.
And so you had this unique mix of players, and they had a special bond that was still there 50 years later when they had an anniversary celebration in San Francisco, the 54th World Championship team. And nobody really touched on this, certainly that year. I don't think anybody kind of realized that this Giants team was belying what was going on in the rest of the country.
Had you thought when you started to write this book that maybe this team could have been the whole focus of the book at one point? Because you think about the 55 Dodgers and the Yankees had just won 5 World Series in a row. Do you think that a whole book maybe could have been done about this? Because there are parts of it where you sort of hint that maybe there could have been.
Well, yeah, it could have been. There's no question that this was the underlying theme of the book, but the overall big picture of the book was the fact that this was truly the breakthrough year for the black players in baseball, particularly the black superstar players in baseball, because when Jackie broke the color line in 1947, which everybody just assumes was the breakthrough year for integration in baseball, it really wasn't, because when he did that, everybody just assumed that there would be this deluge of prominent black players coming out of the Negro Leagues and going right to the major leagues. It never happened. It was more like a trickle. And from 1947 to 54, first of all, the American League won every World Series during those years. And there were the only black players that made any kind of an impact on the game were Jackie, who won the MVP award in 1949, and Roy Campanella, his teammate on the Dodgers, who won a couple of other MVP awards. Other than that, they just hadn't had much of an impact. And by 1954, half of baseball, 8 of the 16 teams, still had not even integrated yet. And that's why I maintain that 54 was really the breakthrough year for integration, because not only did you have 2 teams with players of color on both teams playing in the World Series for the first time, in the Giants and the Indians, you had Hank Aaron breaking in with the Braves.
Right.
You had Ernie Banks breaking in with the Cubs. In forming the first all-black double play combination with Gene Baker as second base partner. And then you had this Giants team with Willie Mays coming back from the Army and winning the MVP award and the batting title. Larry Doby leading the American League in home runs and RBIs for a Cleveland Indians team that won a record 111 games in dethroning the five-time Yankee world champions. So all of those things were going on this year in 1954, and all of them with the impetus from black players.
Now, one thing about Larry Doby, I want to just let people know who don't know. Larry Doby was the second guy, and he only came in 2 weeks after Jackie Robinson. Everyone always focuses on Jackie Robinson, but Larry Doby came in only a couple of weeks later as the first black player in the American League.
Yes,
people get that.
And well, Larry, such was Larry's fate in life that he was always overshadowed by somebody else. And
he was the second black manager. You know, Frank Robinson was the first. He was the second.
Right. And in 1954, in addition to having this great offensive year, Larry made what people said at the time who were there the greatest catch they had ever seen made by a center fielder, and it was on May 31st in Cleveland's Municipal Stadium. The Indians were playing the Washington Senators, and Tom Umflett, an outfielder on the Senators, hit a ball to deep, deep center field in Cleveland's Municipal Stadium. Doby goes back to the wall. He gets to the wall. He leaps over the wall and makes a twisting behind the back catch of the ball, and then crashes down on top of a tarpaulin that was covering the Cleveland bullpen and topples back down onto the field and still held onto the ball.
Wow.
Dizzy Dean, who was there for as a radio broadcaster for the NBC Game of the Week the next day, said it was the greatest catch he had ever seen. And he said, I've seen Joe DiMaggio, I saw Terry Moore with the Cardinals, the great center fielder. And he says, nobody ever made a catch like that one.
And there's no footage. I'm sorry.
And yet, there was no television that
right.
day, no pictures. There are no pictures of this catch because, believe me, I looked for them. There's pictures of Doby laying on the field in the aftermath of it, but no pictures of the actual catch. And then, as we all know, 3 months later, Willie Mays made a catch that rendered Larry's catch another footnote in history.
Yeah,
That's the most memorable catch by a center fielder.
Well, one of the things I wanted to talk about in the book, we all know the footage. We've all seen the footage. It's almost, if you're a fan of baseball, you have to have seen it at least 5 times at this point in your life. But in the book, you have 5 photographs taken by Daily News camera
Frank
guy.
Hurley, yeah.
And it really makes it even, when you see the pictures, when you see the footage, it almost looks natural. But when you see the pictures, it almost doesn't look natural. It's interesting how a picture can change the way you look at something compared to the footage we've always seen. Because first of all, he got 5 shots off, which is incredible.
Right.
Second of all, it's just amazing because he doesn't look like he ever looked back in the photos, and it's just amazing. And it's to me, it's one of the highlights of all the pictures in the book is the 5 pictures of Willie Mays catching Vic Wirtz's.
Yeah, well, our Daily News photographer, Frank Hurley, he was a Pulitzer Prize-winning photographer. He was using a special camera that day. It was Game 1 of the World Series. He unveiled this camera. It was a Hulcher, I forget the name of the Hulcher 500 or something like that. Anyway, it was a special high-speed camera that was able to take sequence shots like that.
Yeah.
And this was the first day he had used it. And he later did a whole article in the Daily News a couple months later explaining this camera and how he got this shot. And it is amazing when you see the sequence shot, because we were the only paper that had the sequence shot. You see the famous shot, which is on the cover of the book.
Right.
Everybody had that, but nobody had all the sequences of him running out, making the catch, turning, and making the throw, and then falling down. And later, Al Rosen, who was on base, and Doby both said the same thing. There was runners on first and second when this happened, and both of them said that Willie's throw was the whole play. The catch was good, but it was the throw that made the difference. And Willie said the same thing. He said, "I made better catches than that. The catch wasn't that hard." Of course, he had 500 feet to go get it. Polo Grounds' dimensions.
That was when center field was down the block.
neither runner was able to advance on that play.
Wow.